piece of machinery in here, and there's a little four-wheel buggy, as you see on the other side of this fence, which was stationed in between the wider rails. So by a system of cable and pulleys, it enabled then that car out here to push the cars down to that staging area, the pull cars, where the mules would already be. So you didn't have to waste any time going back and forth. You had a cable that ran down, went outside the rails over a fixed pulley, came back here, a fixed pulley 90 degrees over the machinery. It was a lot more faster. See, in the veins, I can explain a little bit more. As you see the rock, it has a slight pitch, about 12 degrees from the vertical. There's a top rock, bottom rock. I'll explain how I mentioned earlier about the veins making the forms of these W's or U's. Now, if you look at my hands here, so the hands represent the rock here. So we go to the surface about 200 feet. Keep that same pitch, we come down here. Let's go a couple hundred feet below where we stand and stop. The vein's gonna swing up and make a V. You see me walking? Then back down and up to a basin. About a mile, then going north and south, the veins are ended. Now, what you're looking at here is what? An elevator. An elevator. Don't look like an elevator, does it? But it is. It's called the No.9 mine shaft cages, and this was sunk in the year 1900. So over 200 feet above us, through solid rock, they drilled holes and they had a blast and went down straight, vertically, drove this almost 900 feet to a sump. Those are the two cages that are secured into place. As you can see, the hangers there with the loops and some hangers in that cage. So originally there were 8 hangers in each cage to accommodate the miners when they would hold on when it went up and down, usually on the hour. So in between the hour, then you had the empty coal cars going down and the full ones coming up. Now, if you look above the cages, you see the 2 cables there. So those 2 cables went to the surface to a head frame. A structure with 2 certain diameter wheels, round wheels with grooves, shiv wheels. So the cable, 2 cables went over these 2 shiv wheels. Right near there is the engine house. So by a counter wrap of the cable over the machinery, then enabled one cage to go down, one up, vice versa. They had to take into consideration where they had marks on the cable, length of cable. They designed a clock type of gauge, 2 handles. One handle represented each cage, and the handles would move and indicate what level or floor the cages were on, just like an elevator in a building. And then at that time, you had bells that would ring and lights that would blink on and off to let the personnel know when the cages arrived or stopped and arrived at each level or floor. The other levels are flooded up. And then you can stand right up there.
The elevator doesn't work.
That still remain on the property here throughout the area. But the difference here is this coal car sits, its wheelbase sits on a transverse car. And as you can see, as I glide my light, there's the transverse car. You can see the rails that are separated, both rails, each end of the car. There's the pulley, rather the cable secured to the transverse car. I glide my light over the cable. Cable goes over a fixed pulley and returns to the machinery. So at any given time, they can enable this car to be pulled, to be lined up on that cage or taken across the cage. But this was the most preferable cage you always use because you already had on the floor of the cages those 4 elongated axle wheel lock-ons right there, as you can see a little bit where my light's shining. So basically, you would move this coal car, line it up here, and take it right on. The empty ones, and send them down. Any doorways, again, work areas, you see, this is a lot of electrical repairs they did here. A lot of them parts you see in there maybe are perhaps over 100 years old. Any pipe you see above or around you is either for air drills to build up enough pressure to drill into the rock or the coal. I'll explain this a little bit more. Last, as you observe, here's your air drill, and here's your drill bit. As you notice, it would be drilling in a rock or the coal was operating. You have different lengths of drills, and the technique, and two different types of drills. One was for rock, one was for coal, being that the cutting tip was different in configuration, shape. So basically, you take a simple geometric pattern of a circle, half a circle, square, rectangular area. So many holes are equally spaced in this area, one in the center. Maybe drill a nominal depth of 4 feet. Put your powder in there, blast. You have so many cubic yards of rock or coal removed, and you repeat the process. Now, in the early years, they still drilled the holes, but it was a lot different then. How did they drill the holes? They didn't have no power equipment. By hand. By hand, star drill. Could you imagine turning that drill to cut into the rock or the coal, and you have to have it? Could you imagine that? And then maybe you had a bit and brace operation where we had the tools up in the museum that you could see. Until you hit maybe 1915, 1920, then you had power drills. Now, anything dark brown or yellow you see on any area is all the sulfur and iron deposits of that mineral. Okay, just watch that area there so you don't trip. Now we go up. It's about 4 feet width. This here is a little different. I mean, not like what I'm saying. The size of the mule that you see there, worried about the size of the mules in the mine. Here, their average weight could be anywhere from 800 to 1,200 pounds. A mule was not blind, it's just a myth. Maybe they became blind because of old age, disease, sickness. And the mules are very valuable because more valuable than a miner's life. The mules had stable-like areas in mines here, and at times they took them out if there was strikes, vacation, or if they were sick. They didn't have no birds or canaries on record in the 1850s here, but they had a device called a Davies lamp. Designed a little different than a lantern, if you know what a lantern looks like, and they had a yellow flame in there, and you see that yellow flame going down or out, and immediately it's telling you lack of oxygen. Black lamp, they call that. The other hand, if that flame could have flickered, maybe changed a little bright orange or a bluish tint, could be an indication of a gas, like methane. Your lighter gases were to the ceiling area, a little heavier gases to the floor area. Now, you see a hat here. It's a soft hat. Anybody here in the healthcare field? No? Yes? Pardon me? Okay, you're, yes?
No.
Yes? Nurse, I guess.
Hygienist, dental hygienist.
Dental hygienist. All right, now, it's not a dental office in here, but it's a hospital, and basically, it is called the Dr. Young Memorial Hospital. And they built this structure in 1931, hewn within the rock area there. They had to remove this to not staff doctors and nurses. So occasionally they said Dr. Young nearby was there. It's hard oak. All your hardwoods, oak, there's maple, cherry. So oak is used here. It's going to last a lot longer. I mean, you usually debark them, and at times you got to replace them. What you do is you see this diameter, or this around the circumference, you probe in this piece of timber If you exceed a certain depth and it's mushy, then you gotta replace it. Now, all these bolts you see here are roof bolts, but they're put in the ribs of the roof, 4 feet in length. You drill holes, put them in, they're like a lag bolt. Tighten this up, it expands, and it gives support. You're gonna stabilize this area, have a lot more better protection. Now, sir, what I want you to do is this. When you take a picture, and if you take a picture with your camera looking up, you should put a notation that you're looking up. Right. They were removing coal here in 1858.
Oh, wow.
Dissipate any of the dust of rock, coal, or smoke or fumes. See? And a mixture of iron, sulfur, and water. Some areas down here maybe about 2 feet, close to 2 feet or 4 feet. Anything that comes up from the floor of a mine is a stalagmite.